Hi, welcome to the module on value proposition. You must have heard me use the word USP in the last module or the last few modules. USP meaning the unique selling proposition. And now in this module, we're going to elaborate on what is value proposition and how to build it. Obviously, we're going to go through a few case studies. And let me just straight away get into these case studies. But if I had to kind of define value proposition very briefly, it is this unique offering to this unique customer set that other competitions are not giving, right? Or your competitors are not offering. So if you just think about it again, your unique proposition or unique feature service that you're giving to the unique set of people or a particular set of people that competitors are not giving, right? Um, I think it'll be best explained with some case studies. So let's get into the case study straight away. Uber is a very well-known brand across the world. You use it probably every day of your life. Let's get into the Uber's value proposition story. So it evolved. It didn't come from day one. The value proposition evolved over a period of time. In 2008, Travis and Garrett had a simple idea. What if you could request a ride with a push of a button? But their first value proposition failed miserably. So let's look at the first attempt. What was the first value proposition? On demand car service using mobile technology. Now, this is a very basic value prop, and a lot of us start like this. So don't worry about how you start, understand how you're going to evolve. The problem with this value prop was that nobody understood what this meant. Like, one of the biggest thing of the value proposition is that you should be able to visualize what is being offered, right? Result, investors passed, customers were confused, and there was a bridge between real problem and meaningful solutions which was completely missing. So that was their first failure. So they stopped talking about their technology and started listening to customer pain points. So we did understand how to gather customer insights through customer interviews. And this is a very good case study of how it was leveraged to build value proposition. What people needed. I can never find a taxi when it's raining. I don't know how long I'll have to wait for it to come, and I don't know how much it's going to cost. So I can never find, I don't know how long it's going to take. I don't know what it's going to cost. How current solutions made them feel. I feel so. We spoke about, delving deep into the emotional layer of the customer through customer interviews, not just saying, what do you want, but trying to understand their story. So their story was, I feel helpless standing on the street corners, waving my arms, right? So imagine you're in New York City and there are taxis going back and forth. And to hail a cab, you need to kind of wave at these cabs and then they stop or they don't stop, depending upon, whether they're already servicing customers. And how does this make somebody feel? It makes them feel anxious, not knowing when I will get a ride. And it also makes them feel that, okay, I'm going to go from point A to point B. I don't know how much it's going to cost. So unpredictable pricing makes them uncomfortable. That's how somebody feels. So social layer. I look desperate trying to hail cabs in business clothes. I seem unprofessional when I'm late because of transport issues. I feel out of control in important situations. I want you to pay attention to the fact that we have not talked about any solution so far, right? We're only trying to look at the customer's side of it, the customer's emotional journey here. How does a customer feel with the lack of such solutions like Uber? How did they feel before and how would they feel later? So the refined Uber promise, unlike taxis that you hope will show up, Uber guarantees a professional ride in under 5 minutes for business professionals who can't afford to be late. This is their new value prop, right? We spoke about the older one. We're going to help you hail a cab using technology, right? That's not, there was no emotional connect over there. This value prop was much clearer. Unlike taxis that you hope will show up, Uber guarantees professional ride in under 5 minutes for business professionals who can't afford to be late. So they targeted business professionals with a specific service which their competition was not giving. Yeah. So breaking down the formula, the specific outcome, professional ride in 5 minutes for a specific customer and best than alternative. The three-layer solution, functional, this was predictable, reliable, transparent. And how did one feel when they used the service? They felt more in control, confident, and there was peace of mind, right? What was this mindset? It looked professional, and it was status of effortless mobility. So you can see how brands or how startups have started considering the emotional value more than the logical value, right? So we spoke about logical versus emotional, even in the customer insights and even in the problem solving module. So focus on the emotional transformation of a customer and not just the logical transformation. So price is logical, right? Speed might be logical, but emotional is that how do they feel after the service, right? The test results, when they pitched this refined value, investor they got funding, word of mouth spread rapidly, and they got market validation, right? Customers weren't buying technology, they were buying reliability and status, right? So this is what emotional or customer transformation, when you address emotional issues, looks like. The competitive framework, unlike taxis operating on hope and luck, Uber provides guaranteed professional transportation for people whose time and image matters the most. From product to problem solver. Generic technology, product looking for a market. And after this, the transformation was specific solution for specific people with specific outcomes. And this is what customer targeting, narrow down your customer demographic. Clear bridge between customer problems and meaningful solutions. The framework for all brands, right? So most brands are now using this particular framework. Unlike restaurants where you guess what's good, we show real reviews and photos for people who want to eat well without disappointment. So what is value proposition? You kind of share how and for whom are you doing things better than their competition, right? Your value proposition is about what you do. It's about the specific better version of customers, what they become when they use your solution. The bridge connects their current frustrating state to their desired empowered state. So, this is the biggest learning that you can get in understanding what value proposition is all about. I hope you enjoyed that story. I personally find that story that case study rather very inspiring in understanding what is that you bring to the table vis-a-vis your competition. I'm just going to check if we missed any points. Your value proposition is the bridge between problem and solution. You saw that. Your value proposition is equal to specific outcome for specific people better than alternatives. You need to remember this. And there are three layers to value proposition: functional, what it does; emotional, how it feels; social, how it leverages your status; and how it changes your perception. So customers buy a better version of themselves. This is what we saw. Test with framework. Unlike competitors, we offer this unique benefit for this specific audience. So if you're trying to build a value proposition, you can use this template. Okay, let's get into the next story. The Myntra fashion discovery deception. Mind you, I'm going to talk about, and this is very closely linked to customer interview and insights. This specific story is very deeply linked to that. And remember what I told you, that if you are going in for a large investment, why not try this before you? Why not get customer interviews or some sort of a test of that hypothesis before you go and spend that kind of money? And this case study will give you just that. So there was the big idea. Mintra's product team was absolutely convinced that they had discovered the next big thing in fashion, and which was called the e-commerce personalized styling boxes. Their surveys overwhelmingly were positive about this. Right? Surveys are very misleading. So the survey results: 87 people said, "I would definitely subscribe to a monthly styling service." 93% claimed, "I struggle to find clothes that match my style." 79% agreed, "I would pay 1500 rupees per month for curated fashion delivered to my door." I find this very hard to believe. Focus groups were enthusiastic. This would save me so much time. So these were the highlights from the survey that they are conducted with over 3 lakh people, I think. Yeah. Despite positive surveys, Mukesh Bansal, Myntra CEO, insisted on behavioral validation before they go and invest 50 crores in inventory and logistics. So this is where, remember, we spoke about intuition and data. 50% intuition, 50% data, or sometimes more data, less intuition, sometimes more intuition, less data. This is where that really matters. Experiment one. So what they did was they started to experiment and validate with the real customers, right? So they created a simple landing page and say, okay, join the waitlist for Myntra Style Box. They shared it with 10,000 survey respondents who said they'll definitely subscribe. So you already had done the survey. Only 340 people of that, so 3.4%, actually joined the waitlist. And the big learning was that there was a gap between stated interest and actual commitment. And this is bound to happen when you do surveys which are misleading, when you're talking about future intent. Will you do this if we do this? That doesn't work at all. So, past behavioral patterns can be leveraged, but future intent cannot be predicted. They did another experiment. They said, give us 100 rupees, which is refundable, and reserve your first box. So I'm going to send you a box, just give us 100 rupees and we'll reserve it for you. Now, when it came to paying, remember, so many people said that we are willing to pay 1500 rupees per month for this box, for this subscription. And, this particular experiment showed that that was not true. Only 23 people paid the small commitment fee. That's 23 people of 10,000 that they had sent. So you can imagine the oh, sorry, this is 23 of 340, but 23 of 10,000 only agree, right? Now, even tiny financial commitment revealed the true intent. Behavior study. Instead of asking about future purchases, they studied current behavior. Now they went back to their data to see behavioral patterns. They discovered that 78% of the customers were returning clothing items. They found that 47 minutes were spent per purchase, and they realized they enjoyed the selection process. They didn't want it eliminated. Even though a lot of people said, I want to save time and money, they actually enjoyed the selection process. The behavioral gap. Survey response: I want curated boxes to save time. But the actual behavior was customers spent significant time browsing because they enjoyed it. Survey response: I trust your styling recommendation, but they were returning clothes left, right, and center. So this is the strategic pivot that was decided. AI powered outfit suggestions customer could browse and modify. So they realized that the customer didn't want, although they said we want to save time, they didn't want the selection process to be eliminated. They introduced things like complete the look, virtual styling consultant. They could call upon a consultant whenever needed. So these facilities were given. So customer engagement with these new tools went up, rates decreased, time spent on platform increased. So remember, they wanted to decrease this time, but it actually increased. Revenue per customer grew by 27%. Now let's look at the validation framework that worked. Problem urgency validation, current behavior. How much time and money do they currently spend on this problem? Myntra discovered customers already spent significant time on fashion selection, confirming it mattered to them. Right? People are particular about their fashion choices. They want to do the mix and match themselves. Only when they feel perplexed, they would, ask for suggestions from a consultant. Solution fit validation, prototype user built simple recommendation engine and measured actual clicks. And the behavior showed customers wanted assistance, not replacement of choice. So they wanted both choice and assistance. Business model validation, payment behavior, tested various pricing modules with real money commitment, found customers would only pay for premium features but not subscription boxes. They don't want any subscription, any commitment to be given to any brand. So I love this story from a perspective that this is exactly what I've seen in multiple startups that have started. While we got to know the intensity of a problem with customer insights, the future behavior was only predictable, or we could only test it when we put something in front of the customer for them to see. Before that, their future intent cannot be predicted. So the idea is that whenever you are trying to gauge the customer, you have to, I would encourage you to make prototypes and then test them out. And this I've done many times in my startup journey. And this worked very well. In fact, for me to have two co-founders join me in a startup, that was Travel. Okay, coming back to the case study, the behavioral truth versus survey lies. I want someone else to pick my clothes, but people actually enjoyed picking them themselves. I hate spending time on shopping online. That wasn't true. I trust algorithmic recommendations. Customers wanted to see and modify recommendations before committing. People told Mintra what they thought they want, but their behavior revealed a completely different side. What they wanted were better tools to assist in the same behavior. So I want to make a choice. Can you give me better tools to make that choice? I don't want to replace that process, but I want the tools to make it even better. Now imagine before spending 50 crores, they spent about 15,000 rupees in creating that landing page and sending out emails and all of that, and discovering this pattern. So imagine the amount of money they saved. So from hypotheticals to habits. One of the traits that every startup founder should have is to be able to design hypothesis. Now, what is the hypothesis? In this case, in Mintra's case, they designed a hypothesis saying that we are going to build something like a styling box, which we are going to send people, and those people will pay for it. And the surveys kind of support that. Ideally, everyone would have gone for it. But because the CEO had insight, or let's say CEO had a intuition, then that we can spend a little more and actually test out this behavior. The CEO had a little bit of a scientific mind, is what I would what I would say. You know, let's test this hypothesis, right? I want all of you to have this kind of a mindset where you say, let's test this hypothesis. Define your hypothesis very correctly and clearly. What is the hypothesis? And then test it out in the real world. Don't do surveys. If you want to do deep customer interviews, but don't do surveys. Surveys are very misleading. So, yeah, from hypotheticals to habits. Don't ask, would you buy this? We spoke about this in the customer interview also. Do ask, show me how you currently solve this problem. This is very relevant. Don't rely on future purchase intentions. Do track current spending patterns. Survey enthusiasm and measure actual commitment, behavior, time, money, and referrals. The ultimate truth, people lie to be helpful, but behavior never lies. Watch what they do and not what they say they will do. Right? So this kind of corroborates with what we were talking about in customer interviews also. And this also helps you build a very clear value proposition, right? What is this value you're going to generate for your customer and how, right? So if you need to um, surpass your competition, the next case study will actually tell you how to do that, how they did it, and how you can apply those learnings to your startup. But before that, let me just go do a quick check on the points and do a small recap of the learnings from this particular case study of Mintra. Validation is about behavior, not opinions. One big learning I want you to take is small experiments beat big research studies for real validation. If you are doubtful about something, just put something out there for people to see and experience before you take a decision and have a way to just track that behavior. Pre-order, waitlist, and prototype usage are stronger than surveys. So if I need to, and I've said this many times earlier also, if I need to test out something, I would just make a website about that. And if I were to sell, I would quickly set up a e-commerce store and start ads and see whether this is working or not. And what is the kind of feedback that I'm getting. These are the smaller experiments that you can do uh, before launching the big project that you have in mind. Excellent. So far, so good. We're doing good on time also. Let's get into the next case study. Zomato restaurant discovery positioning breakthrough. We all know what Zomato is. I don't have to tell you about it. And this case study also talks about the evolution of Zomato from when and how they started to where they are right now. So in 2008, we all know Deepinder Goyal launched Zomato. India's food delivery market seemed impossible to enter. So it was a crowded market already. There was Food Panda, Tiny Owls, Owl, local players were there, and restaurant had their own delivery systems. So not every restaurant was delivering, but many good restaurants had their own fleet. So the competitor review mining strategy. Instead of trying to beat the competitor at their own game, Dipinder's team analyzed thousands of customer reviews across all platforms, looking for consistent patterns of frustration. This is one pointer I'd given you in the last few modules also, that if you want to understand the customer frustration, maybe surveys are not such a great thing, but you can look at reviews. Reviews tell you the real story about a company. The gap analysis discovery. Consistent complaint number one, I never know if the food will actually look like what it looks like in the photo. Visual authenticity and realistic expectations were the market gap. So, what was Zomato's opportunity? Real photos from real customers, not just restaurants and marketing shots. Remember the Nika story of customer insight? They wanted people like them to give a review about the beauty products that they were using. And this is where the user generated content played a major role in success of many startups. People wanted to know more from real people than from companies, because I mean, companies are going to put out a good word for themselves, but users are going to tell you the real picture about a particular company. Why show me restaurants that don't deliver? So on other platforms, Food Panda and Tiny Owl, these restaurants don't deliver, so why am I wasting so much time looking at them? So what was Zomato's opportunity ever here? Hyper local discovery that showed only available options. If you remember, I don't know how many of you have seen the website in 2008. The app came in much later. In 2008, we were using Zomato to discover restaurants, right? And we could discover based on whether they delivered or not, whether they're fine dining or not. So all of these parameters were taken care of. I can never find a new place that matches my taste. So this was a gap. Taste based recommendations and food personality matching is what Zomato came up with. Now, the unique positioning strategy. Instead of we deliver food faster and cheaper, competing on same dimensions, Zomato chose we help you discover food experiences you'll actually love. It's a different dimension entirely. Do you remember the Rent the Runaway story? Where pricing didn't matter, the customer wanted to feel smarter. There's the same language that we are using. We help you discover food experiences you will actually love. Different delivery approach. While others optimize for speed, Zomato optimize for discovery, right? And these are the initial days we are talking now. I mean, Zomato does everything, but these are the initial days, because initial days matter to you more than what they're actually doing right now. So they turned ordering into an experience and not just a transaction. A completely different customer focus. Others were targeting hungry people who wanted food fast. Excuse me. Zomato targeted food enthusiasts who wanted to explore and discover. Right? So imagine if you're living in a big city like Delhi, where every day there are new restaurants that are coming up. How will you find them? How will you discover them? And that's what Zomato targeted, rather than targeting on just food delivery. Served food explorers, not just food orderers. So the idea was that they built a community of people who were interested in knowing new places. They were always interested in reviewing them. So they built a very strong community first, and they were successful in monetizing on that community, which was a completely different model. So the intersection strategy, I want you to pay attention on this. Market gap, lack of authentic food discovery and expectation. Zomato's unique strength, technology background for building recommendation engines. Intersection result, personalized food discovery platform with authentic user generated content. Right. So they played on the content strategy rather than just competing with their competition on the same lines. Right. So they built something very different. Same customers, different service, targeted. Uh, uh, the beauty of technology is that, or let's say competition kind of proved that there were enough consumers, right? And in today's technological advancements that have happened in marketing and ads, you can go and target somebody else's customers also, right? So while the customer base was getting prepared by others, Zomato was targeting them with better discovery engine, right? So it worked very well um, in their favor. So different customers, similar service, expanded to food enthusiasts who weren't regularly delivery users, serve them restaurant discovery for dining out, build foodie community. Other platforms, I am hungry, get me food now. Zomato, I wonder what new food experiences I can discover today. While competition fought on price, Zomato built premium features people paid for: gold membership, priority delivery, exclusive restaurant access. Customers paid for discovery and experience and not just food. So the validation came through competition. So competition gave you a validation that the market is big enough. There was enough investment opportunity, and Zomato kind of built a differentiation for themselves, which has led to their success. Review driven framework. So their framework, entire framework of value proposition was review driven. Collect competitor reviews, identify patterns, map frustrations, choose positioning that addresses biggest gaps you can uniquely solve. Serve the same customers differently or different customers similarly. The crowded market wasn't really crowded. Everyone was competing in the same narrow lane, fast, cheap delivery, right? And this is, you can see, is happening in q commerce also, the quick commerce domain. It's all about fast and cheap delivery. Or yeah, so, and there's a real opportunity, I think, there also. If somebody comes up with a with a better value proposition, there's a great opportunity there, because they have proven that the market size is big enough. In crowded markets, the biggest opportunity isn't beating the competition. It's finding the game nobody is playing. So competition validates the demand. Your job is to get some specific demand nobody is satisfying. So great. I think this is a great case study for someone who's saying, or thinking about value proposition and how to position themselves in a fairly competitive market. According to me, competition is great. It validates you're in the right domain. It has already validated that for you, that the market is big enough. We sometimes put down our ideas thinking that there are already 10 other people doing it. That may not be true. You need to take a data approach to this and see how big the market is and what are the current frustrations of the customers going through these models, right? So I think that approach would work very well in discovering what is that you can offer differently to these people, because you already have a customer base that they've developed. That's the wonderful thing about entering a competitive market. Again, just checking for points. Competition is a good sign that market has the demand. Your blue ocean can be can be different delivery, customer focus, or a different business model in the same market. Yeah, I think we've covered all the points in the case study. Let's move on. And I hope you've understood the template for creating the value proposition. What is that you do uniquely for specific customers that the competition is not doing. I want to go to the next case study and see what do we learn there. Zerodha, what a wonderful company. They've not been funded. It's a fully bootstrapped company who's done so well. How invisible losses became must act now decisions. Nitin Kamath launched Zerodha as another discount brokerage in India. And lukewarm interesting concept. We'll think about it. Classic nice to have a reaction. The nice to have problem. We also spoke about urgency in customer interview and insights, that we need to figure out what is the urgency of solving this problem. Is it an urgent problem that needs to be solved now? Is it a nice to have problem? Um, because if it's nice to have, you will always have a marketing problem, right? And marketing, we always trying to create that urgency to solve that problem that you have. Now, in this case, it was coming out as a nice to have problem. So again, this is the price aspect that I'm thinking of. I'm constantly talking about the price aspect because a lot of people feel that if they launch a cheaper product, they'll win the market. That's not true at all, right? And in this case also, when they lowered the brokerage fee, it wasn't a natural win for them, right? They had to actually change their whole perception, excuse me, or change their messaging to understand what and how they should place themselves. So, what is the unique value proposition that they can offer? Through deep customer interviews, Nitin discovered something shocking about active traders' behavior. Customer pain analysis. Expensive. So traders on an average were paying 15 to 40,000 monthly in brokerage fee alone because they were doing about 50 to 200 trades a month. And per trade, the charge was about roughly about 100 rupees. And this was a huge money issue. They were losing about 2.3 lakhs a year, and nobody was, giving much thought to it. So instead of talking about lower fees, Nitin started talking about wealth leakage, right? What are you missing out on? What are you not noticing? Have you realized that you are losing money? You know, so that terminology that you are losing money, do you know that you're losing money, is a better pitch than saying lower fees, right? So they kind of made the problem expensive and visible. So they started giving these numbers to people and saying, do you losing about 2.3 lakhs a year? That's absolutely absurd. How can you do that? And you can buy XYZ things in this. So the lost money was turned into a concrete, visualizable loss, which people were not registering earlier. So they made the loss very visible. They created competitive timing pressure. Markets are moving faster. Your brokerage cost should be you should slow down on brokerage cost. They positioned high brokerage as competitive disadvantage, not just expense. So while you're paying high fees, smart traders are compounding those savings. So you were, let's say, saving 2.3 lakhs. If you had saved that money, you would compound on that. You would make more money on that. They leverage increasing problem cost. So every month you delay switching your cost, 20,000 in unnecessary fee, you're losing money, right? Your trading frequency is increasing, but your brokerage optimization isn't. Made delay more expensive. So they always showed how your inaction is costing you. My apologies for this. Okay. Customer zero razor seems interesting. Lower fees are good. Timeline, we'll consider it sometime. Budget, no immediate allocation. And this was before they kind of changed their value proposition. And after they changed their value proposition, which they positioned it as a must have, um, you should subscribe to Zerodha immediately. Sign up with Zerodha immediately, a must have solution. So they were losing 30,000 annually to brokerage fees. When can I switch? I'm losing that, so when can I switch? How quickly can I open the account? Immediate cost benefit calculation and urgent account opening. Real behavioral shifts, we've spoken about that. And then they also added the scarcity trigger, right? So they started marketing saying that we're limiting account opening to only 1,000 traders, right? So this FOMO kind of created like a high volume trade sign up, traders sign up. And, This led to more account creation. Account opening increased by 400% within 6 months. Customer acquisition cost dropped, which is the biggest cost in marketing. Customer acquisition costs are the biggest cost. Average customer lifetime value increased. Zerodha became India's largest broker by volume. I'm going to read the after Zerodha reframed there. The problem was you're losing 2 lakhs plus annually. Solution is we stop the bleeding immediately. Urgency, every day of delay is costing you more money that you're losing. So the urgency triggers are scarcity, competitive timing, increasing problem cost. So every time you don't take an action, you lose 20,000 more. Right. So then they kept adding more features which you could subscribe to, and they kept giving numbers. They What they were working on was that they were making the loss visible to you, the problem visible to you in numbers. So that became their unique value proposition. Right. So they move from nice to have to must have now. I hope you enjoyed that case study. And again, Zerodha was operating in a very competitive market. It's not one or two players there. There are hundreds of them. So, but good value proposition, clarity in thought kind of took them there. Nice to have, interesting idea. Must have, I need this. Okay. Once you understand these concepts, obviously I'm going to give you an exercise to kind of implement these concepts. I want you to look at your idea now. You know, I want you to see whether you're in a competitive market or you are in a new market. And what is your value proposition? What are you telling people? And how can now you change it, right? I'm sure you've learned how to change your value proposition. You know yourself now. You know how to look at problems. You know how to dig deeper into problems. You know how to now look into the emotional side of these problems while talking to your customers. And you know how to position yourself with your clear value proposition. Okay. I'm going to now in the next video take you through the exercise. And trust me, if you do that exercise, you could take probably if you are going for investment, with that exercise, you can prepare your investment deck in one day. I'll see you in the next video.